Okay, well, thank you for joining us today for our case study. Today, we're going to discuss a little bit about the journey to optimization and scale. And the emphasis we want to put today is on the journey. There's going to be a lot of talks today about optimization, and we want to talk a little bit about what we've learned about the journey along the way to actually get to the optimization and scale. And of course, this is in order to scale your business. There's a lot of businesses that need to get to that scale, and the journey there is a lot of the work that we all put in. So just to introduce ourselves, I'm Sarit. I'm a product manager at Natural Intelligence, and this is Omri. He'll be also speaking with me. And we work mainly on data infrastructure and machine learning features on that side of our product. And the whole presentation we're going to talk about today is actually a joint effort of the whole company. We're going to talk about a few different stories along the way. So there's a lot of us sitting in the crowd here, and you are more than welcome afterwards to ask us questions or anyone else that works in Natural Intelligence. So what does Natural Intelligence actually do? Today, each one of us has many decisions daily. 35,000 is what we're told now that everyone has per day. But this is exponential, and the more options we have out there, the more choices we actually have. And the funny thing about that is the paradox of choice. The more options we all have, the less happy we all are. We have choices from when we get up in the morning till we go to sleep at night. A lot of them are in our workplaces, but there are many choices additional after that. So we all know the story of Mark Zuckerberg. I don't know if all of you have noticed, but he wears a gray shirt every day, and on top of that, he wears a gray hoodie. And he had made the decision that when he wakes up every morning, he doesn't want to have to choose what he's wearing that day. He wants to have the same thing in his closet and just lots of the same thing. And this way, he can focus his choices on what really matters. So we have our choices that we have to make per day, and there's just too much information out there. And what we want is the right information at the right place, and what is the decision for me to make right now. And it's a really tough choice out there. So our mission at Natural Intelligence is to empower users to make uniform decisions. We do this by shortlists, many shortlists in many different domains. You can see one example here. And by giving this empowerment to our users, we help them with the relevant choices. We do the research for them. We give them the relevant choices to make that confident decision at the right point. And how do we do this? By using data. Lots and lots of data that we have about the users, about the decisions, about the research, about the different lists, and about the different products. And we have lots of tools that we've built along the way to enable the building of these different shortlists.
Before we deep dive into actually how we use AI to optimize our business at scale, I want to focus a little bit more about our magic factors. What is the thing that we do really good? So it actually splits into two things. First, we know how to target what we call high-intent users. High-intent users, So we know how to target high-intent users. What are those high-intent users? Those are specific kind of users that we know want to make a buy. They're not just interested or window shopping, but are really, really focused on make a purchase, but they still don't know what they want to purchase or specifically which product. They're in a dilemma of choice. And the second factor we do really, really well is actually creating an experience that helps them convert, so-called, or make a choice. And you know what? This magic factor really, really helped us grow. From 10 years ago, when we started comparing dating sites, we now compare over 350, we have over 350 comparison sites in over 30 different domains, from insurance to retail, to meal deliveries, to DNA kits. And with these users, with this scale, we've started encountering problems because this magic was tailored. It was eventually made by very, very smart people. And when we grow from one site to 20, to 300, to 1,000, this magic doesn't scale anymore. So yeah, it might be simple to build 9, but when you try to compare the world, it's starting to be complex. And not necessarily because of there is a lot of data, and there is a lot of data, but because of the variety. There are a lot of types of domain, and there are a lot of types of the behaviors, and there are a lot of types you need to optimize. So basically, optimizing an experience for, I don't know, finding office spaces is not the same as finding mortgage or finding credit reports companies. So this journey actually is this journey of going from tailored experience, tailored sites, into more at-scale sites. How can we compare the world? So these are 2 stories, and something that we've learned during these 2 stories we're going to tell you today, in a way a pattern started to emerge, a pattern of how we've succeeded to do things and how we've failed to do things. And I caught some sort of framework. We will meet this framework going through power tools, through automation, trust, experimentation, and optimization at scale. And you will see how this framework interleaves through our story. So without further introduction, let's start with our first story, what we call short-list optimization, or how we actually build our own websites. So this is a top 10 shortlist. It compares mortgage loan companies, and it's actually built, when you think about it, the experience is rather simple. So you show a top 10 list of mortgage companies, and you give, in a way, the key decision factors you should choose. For example, which crowd, which audience they're targeting for, and so on and so on. Why should you choose them? And you might ask yourself, okay, so what there is to optimize here? Well, quite a lot, actually. From the location of the filters and what is filtered by default, from reviews and how you display scores, from content, from the specific words you use in your headers, in your content, in your videos, in your images, you can create a totally different experience, and an experience that converts differently and helps people to make their choices differently. So how do you do that at scale? You just build a model, feed it with data, and deploy it to production, right? No. We actually have a business to run here, and in some point in time, yeah, this model might mess up, and when it will mess up, there will be explaining to do. So we need to go, I say not haphazardly, be a little bit more organized on how we deploy and how we build our model, so we will be able to do it when you have a large variety when trying to compare the world. So the first understanding that we have is, in order to optimize quickly, we need to reduce our time to test. So if we have an idea, whether it came from data or whether it came from a crazy thought by one of our product managers, we need to be able to prove it quickly. And we need to be able to prove it not necessarily with a data scientist, because that won't scale for every of our hypotheses, and not necessarily with an engineer, because we can't give an engineer for each hypothesis someone has. So we built a system that will allow us to build, in a way, to quantify our experiments, to quantify our optimizations better, and build it in a way automatically, and get into a moment we can build an optimization in minutes. So now we can run lots of experiments, which is nice, but it doesn't mean these experiments are good. So we gave our analysts tools, and we gave our product team tools to make it simple for them to understand if their hypotheses even make sense, if they will ever converge, if the audience is too noisy, without having an analyst or data scientist with them. Another thing that we did, we can now actually create hypotheses automatically based on our data. So we can create hypotheses really, really quickly, and we're kind of sure that they are good hypotheses. So, okay, now we can run them in test and test them in production. And here comes a problem. Eventually, we're working on production websites. These production websites need to make money. Our traffic is valuable, very, very valuable. And we don't want necessarily to waste it all around haphazardly on tests that might fail. So there's always this tension between exploiting and learning. And one of the ways we did that, we managed to, in a way, live on this tension is to hedge our investment. We're defining upfront how much we're willing to pay for experiments, for learning. We're building guardrail metrics that allows us, when we know that someone will fail and will fail miserably, to shut it down automatically before we get into some kind of conversions that we don't want to get there. And we got a lot of monitoring and a lot of automatic fallbacks. Now, another thing, another good part in allowing us to automate this is that suddenly we need to prove that our tests are better reproducible and have better reasoning and traceability. And something that we've learned, which is kind of, I say non-conventional, is that sensible results, a lot of them are better than just better results. But this doesn't solve our main issue, which is still we have a lot of variety and we need to slice and dice our users very, very thinly. And this creates a lot of problems because we need, first of all, manage a really, really large long tail. And second, we don't have enough traffic to reach significance when it started to slice and dice very thinly. So one thing that we did is that we've separated our optimization, our exploitation from our learning phase, from our exploration phase. When we do experiments, we try to do them globally. So we unify our sites into clusters that, in a way, have the same meaning. For example, financial services. Sorry. We try to experiment globally. And once we experiment globally, we're sorry, guys. Once we experiment globally, we can analyze the data and find clusters of significance and then optimize locally. So now, when we can actually experiment at scale without managing, and automatically without managing the long tail, now we can do all this crazy machine learning stuff really, really easily. We can run multi-arm bandit, we can do clustering and microsegmentation, intent prediction and content generation, a lot of these nice models, because now we have the framework to run them really, really quickly against our tailored data. Tailored experience, thank you.
Okay, so the second example that we have today is PPC automation, how we optimize the traffic acquisition through PPC. So what Omri discussed right now is the sites themselves and how we optimize the sites themselves once someone arrives at one of our sites. But what happens before they arrive at our sites? How can we optimize the traffic that's actually getting to one of our sites in natural intelligence? So that comes more on the PPC. PPC is paid per click. Today, we do lots of optimization to have the right users arrive at our site at the right time through Google, through Bing, and we have many marketing analysts who actually look at the traffic and decide how we should spend our money correctly on these different marketing platforms. So our marketing analysts today manage over $100 million in media buying and optimize campaigns for more than 350 sites with more than 25,000 ad groups, which is quite a lot. We are one of Google's top 50 spenders on Google Ads. And we do this in many different domains, meaning our marketing analysts have quite a lot of work cut out for them. So the first thing we did in PPC automation is understand what the PPC culture is and actually what our PPC marketing analysts were spending their time on and trying to understand what kind of power tools we can build for them so that they can spend their time optimizing the traffic in the best way. Here we have two things that we built for them. The first one is what we call Ad Manager, which actually gives ad suggestions to the marketing analysts based on performance performance and modifiers that we've put into this, this tool. And the tool gives the marketing analysts what they should be focusing on right now and showing them which ad groups are performing well so they can spend their time just doing the optimizations. The second one is the monitoring and alerts, which we use a tool called Anodot, where we actually add in the different monitoring that we want to take a look and see on the different ad groups themselves. This also helps us with the trust issues that Omri was discussing before, because the monitoring can also be shown to the marketing analysts, but can also be shown to the business stakeholders and explaining what they're seeing and what's happening with the different ad groups and where our money is being spent right now. The second thing that we did after we had those tools was building our automatic bidding system. We understood that in order to scale, we can't have, there's only so many marketing analysts you can have in a company and only so many domains. And once we wanted to get to that certain amount, the first step was finding an automatic bidding system. So we went out there and we took a look at a lot of systems that are out there that are open to use. You pay for them, but they're open to use that different companies have built. And to only find out that even though they were using amazing machine learning, amazing statistical learnings, still our team beat them every time. So what we did is we said, okay, we have a choice. We are now going to build our own automatic bidding system inside the company that will take the know-hows of our marketing analysts and take the models and the rules that they've already built and use them to build our automatic bidding system. So the next step was trust. We understood that we have a bidding system. We want to scale, but we have to get our business alongside with us. So it kind of happened top down and bottom up at the same time. The top down is understanding that as part of our business strategy, we need an automatic system so that we can scale. What is our automation budget and how much of our traffic are we willing to put out there in order to use this automatic system? The second was bottom up, to understand how we can test this system. We know that it's a good system, but how can we test it alongside what's already happening with the tailored decisions that our marketing analysts were doing, and actually prove that automation wins at scale. So we went off to the experimental world. We decided that we were going to start A/B testing our automatic tool. And the PPC world, there's a few options to how to test. Most of us are usually test by traffic, just splitting the traffic into two. We decided to look at more the splitting of keywords. This enables us in the long run to build a bigger scale of A/B tests that are running at the same time. And the problem here was that we couldn't really balance our variance very well. We had a big bias between a few different groups because of the changes that were happening in the different ad groups all the time. The marketing analysts need to make changes that are happening, optimizing the different groups of AdWords ongoing. So what we did is we understood that we need to do not only A/B split, but we built a new method that we call A/B swap, which what does is we do the same split at the beginning. We have group A and group B, which is the test and control, but the test is actually having different changes that are happening a long time, and each day the test and the control get swapped between them, meaning the keywords that are in one and the keywords in the other every day are getting swapped between them. So this way we can look at our tests and we have a lot less noise, which we can take a look in this slide that we saw that not only the noise, the blue line on the bottom is the A/B swap. We saw that not only at the beginning of the test there was less noise, but along the test itself, we were getting a lot less noise in the experiment. So we understood that this was the right way to go. This, of course, leading us to the option that we can now optimize at scale. We have our automatic bidding system. We have some machine learning models that we've already been using kind of tailored along the way, but we now can add them to the bidding system itself. Another thing that this enabled us is that along the way, we kind of started structuring our data. So if you can optimize, any marketing analyst can come and optimize their different campaign that they're working on, which is amazing, but once we started looking at the data, automating the data, we were able to actually look at clean, nice data for us to actually use when we want to start doing our optimization itself. So those were the two examples that we had today to share with you, and we do want to leave you with some key takeaways that you can take back to your different journeys that you're doing in your different companies, and we'll share 3 of them.
So I believe you've seen how the framework or how this process started. In a way, something that we've learned along the way is that creating optimization, creating smart machine learning algorithms, while they are cool, they're not necessarily the most cost-effective. So one thing that we learned along the way is that automation and giving power tools and creating a culture of using data, using power tools and automation is much more important than just giving data, giving models, and let them run freely in production. So that's one key takeaway. The second is to hedge your investment. Eventually, there is a business to run, and we need, as a data team, as an AI team, we need to always understand that we need that, yes, our goal is to learn, but there's still business that runs in parallel to us, and we need to help them actually exploit our learning. And to do that, we need to hedge our investment. And the third takeaway is actually one of the main takeaways in a business like that, where scale, in a business like ours, when a scale is actually a scale in variety, when you're trying to compare the world and you try to slice and dice the world, you need to understand when you need to manage this slice and dice and very thin slice and dice, and when you need to experiment globally, and when you can use the learnings you've got from global experimentation into the local optimization when you finally decide to exploit your learnings. So thank you very much. Again, we'll be here, and I think we've got 2 minutes for a question or two if you want to dig deeper into the nitty-gritty details. And even if not, we will be waiting on Natural Intelligence booth. Thank you very much.